I understand it can be confusing right now to buy a camera within 2000 US dollars because there are so many options, and especially after Nikon pushed that new firmware for the Z6 and the Z7 and the Z5 and the Z50 and all that, essentially their first generation mirrorless cameras. I think for a lot of people it might have gotten a bit complicated and a bit confusing. So a couple of weeks back when the firmware came out, I just said I tested it immediately and said, it looked like, to me it felt like that there's a lot of improvement. I tested it inside my house with my brother and I felt that the eye autofocus is significantly improved, and therefore that's my first reaction though. And now what I want to do is I want to now test that theory out. I want to understand whether that is really true or not, and if that is true, how does that impact your decision making when it comes to a camera, first within 2000 US dollars, and maybe after that for the Z7II and the Z7, which one of those do you think is going to be the right for you? So let's get into the test. When first, one of the first things that is realized while doing this test, I took both these cameras out, the Z6 and Z6II, used the 70 to 200 Z lens 2.8, and it was around 4:30 in the afternoon, somewhere in India. And the first thing that I realized that people really cribbed a lot about the autofocus of the Z cameras in the auto area mode, but I thought that those red boxes which have this tendency to grab something in the background and not on the subject, and the subject's in front of you. I was shooting with this lens at 200 mm, and I thought from the get go, the camera actually, the red boxes actually got the subject, her body before the camera, before she came closer to the camera, and the camera got her eye. So that was, to me, was an interesting observation, and maybe it is the Z6 right now that you can see, and maybe there is something that has changed, right? So we'll get into the test, we'll get into the comparison right now, but before that, let's look at the price. If you look at the price right now, the Z6 is about 1600 US dollars, the Z6II is about 1850 US dollars, the A7 III Sony is about, again, 1800 US dollars, the A7C is 1800 US dollars, 1900 US dollars is where the Panasonic S5 is at. So this is a crowded market. The Z7 is at 2500, 2600, depending on where you are, and the Z7II is about 3000 something, right? So 3000 or 3100 US dollars, or something like that. So basically, like I was saying, that can be complicated, can be confusing. Now let's get into the test right now. You can see that the Z6 is on the left and the Z6II is on the right. I'm at the same position, I'm in the same distance from her. She may have started a feet or two up and down, left or right, but she starts walking the camera. Initially on the Z6, the camera does not get the focus right, but immediately within like a split of a second, the camera notices the moving subject, and the red boxes actually grab her, and then both of them are coming forward. In both of them, she's coming forward, and I can see that right there the Z6II gets her right the first time, first, right? And in this frame you can see that she's actually a little further away on the Z6II. She's a little further away on the Z6II, telling us that the Z6II can actually see the eye, detect the eye from a little further away. On the Z6, there are moments when the camera loses the camera loses detection of the eye and the face, and it goes back to those red boxes, but it comes back immediately. While using the camera, I did not see any difference in terms of the performance and how it felt in my hand while shooting. Both of them felt very confident. I didn't feel any difference shooting any of these, and I thought both of them were actually doing a very good job. So I was interested to look at the results. Now, the surprising thing is that in the auto area IF mode, the Z6 and the Z6II perform almost equally well. The Z6 gives you 96% accuracy and the Z6II gives you 90. There's not much between them. Z6 gives you 77 pictures, gave me 77 pictures out of 80 in focus, and Z6II gave me 99 out of 101. This is fascinating result for both of these cameras, and I think If anyone is shooting portraits with this camera, anyone will be very happy because it's so of course the lens is maybe adds to the performance. So if you're not using a professional 2.8 lens, if you're using the 1.8 primes, I don't think, except the 50 mm maybe, which is a single motor, I think the 85 mm and the 35 mm, all those other lenses are very good. If you're using the macro lens, for example, that's going to be very good because that has a very strong and new age motor. If you're using the 40 mm, like I have started shooting the 40 mm right now, f2, the plastic lens, these all these lenses are fast lenses, so I'm sure that you're going to see this performance with those lenses. Okay, now let's try out the auto area L mode. Now understand, in the auto area L mode, wide area L mode, I'm sorry, in the wide area L mode, the Z6II has this added capability to look at the eye and to pick the eye up. So if you look at this side by side, while shooting, I felt fairly confident that she's in focus in both of them. Of course, the Z6II gives me the advantage or the benefit of seeing that it's actually tracking her eye. I can't see that on the Z6, but I felt very confident shooting them, and I didn't feel that she was out of focus even once. And then if you look at the result, I counted the files, I looked through all the files in the on the computer, and both of them give me 100% accuracy. I think if you look at the stat right now, I got 52 out of 50 right on the Z6 and 46 out of 46 right on the Z6 II. That's fabulous. So between these two focus modes, um, if you're a portrait shooter, this is the Z6 is the same as the Z6 II right now. So if you have the Z6 and thinking of selling it, do not. If you're thinking of saving some money, and if you have a Nikon mirrorless camera in mind, and if you're looking at around between $1,500 and $2,000 in that bracket, if you're looking for a camera, I think you can't be failed by the Z6. And also remember that this wide area L mode can also help you shooting fast moving subjects better, because it kind of, the camera zeroes down to a specific sort of space, and you're asking the camera to look for subject within that space, so it's more accurate, it's more perfect. So even with the Z6, if you use the wide L mode, and if you're shooting fast moving subjects in sports or wildlife, I think it will do a fairly decent job. It's just that it'll be difficult for her to move that box around, but that's about it. While I'm doing this, why not actually test out the tracking? So I took the camera out to a road where I saw a lot of moving scooters and bikes and other vehicles. I thought maybe it's a great time to test them out. There's adequate light. I could actually go up to 1000 of a second or 1200 of a second shutter speed, so I thought I could test them out. So if you look at them side by side right now, so if you look at the Z6, I thought it was pretty confident tracking that scooter that kind of quickly came out of the group, and I felt as if it was completely in control. And when it came to the Z6 II, I actually did not. I felt as if the box was not so sticky on the Z6 II. Surprisingly, I felt as if the Z6, the box was more sticky on the subject. On the Z6 II, as if it is like slipping away. So I was not very confident. I was surprised also. I thought maybe I'm not going to get so many shots correct on the Z6 II. So then when I put all the files together and looked through the files and counted how many of them are in focus, I was surprised to see that the Z6 II actually gave me 75% shots in focus. And that's amazing, because I while shooting I didn't feel that, and that's why I'm mentioning how I felt while shooting, because that's important. While I was shooting with the Z6 II, it didn't feel as confident as the Z6, but when I looked at the pictures, 94 out of 124 shots were in focus. That's 75%, but on the Z6, only 42 out of 73 were in focus. That's about 58%, but 60%. But I think there is a visible difference in accuracy and that percentage. So there you go. So now if you come back to the discussion with which we started this, entire episode, you said, okay, so if you're in the market to buy any of these cameras, how do you decide? Look, if you're a portrait shooter and if you're a hobbyist or an enthusiast, the Z6 is enough. It's a lot of camera for you. Firstly, 24 megapixels is good enough, and the autofocus right now is really good. If you know how to use it, you'll probably not get any shot out of focus. So especially if you're a portrait shooter, I think the Z6 is just absolutely an amazing deal right now. So and it's a quite a capable body as a second shooting body as well, and it's, like I said, it's great for hobbyist and prosumer. But if you are a professional, if you want the assurance of dual card slots, right, dual card slots, that's a big reason for you to probably move to the Z6 II and consider that, because it's about 250 US dollars more. And you should also upgrade to that body, the Z6, the second generation bodies, for the possibility of better upgrade coming from Nikon. And I'm pretty confident, looking at the kind of upgrade that you've gotten for the first generation models, I'm pretty confident that we're going to see a sort of a transformation in performance for the second generation bodies as well. So upgrade for that, or go and get the second generation bodies for that if you're looking within this price point. Of course, the deep buffer also is meaningful. And if you now connect the dots between better tracking performance and deeper buffer, I think you can see that this is a decent entry level performer. The Z6 II is a decent entry level performer for sports shooters and for wildlife as well. Of course, the Z6 II also has 4K 60 in crop mode. Now, if you compare that to the Sony A7 III, I think the Z6 right now very adequately matches the Sony A7 III. But if you, in terms of autofocus and other performance areas, but if you look at the quality parameters, like the build quality of the body, the quality of the shutter, the A7 III has reported so many shutter failure cases, right? So if you look at the EVF, if you look at the LCD, the fact that you don't have good quality 4K 30 on the A7 III, but you get fantastic 4K 30 on the Z6. The fact that you can get 10-bit 422 and ProRes RAW 12-bit out of the Z6 with an Atomos Ninja 5, you can't do that with the A7 III. If you look at all of these things, I mean, I think Z6 not only matches the A7 III, I think it's slightly above in when it comes to practicality in quite a few parameters. Except I would say the lens lineup for the third party lens options that you get for the Sony. If you want that, I mean, that's a good reason to get into the Sony system. I can't say no to that, because you save a lot of money and get great performance out of those Tamron and out of those Sigmas. Now, if you look at the Z6 II and if you try to compare that with the A7 III right now, I think it's not a fair comparison. The Z6 II, the second generation Z body, outclasses the A7 III. The autofocus is so good, and it's still evolving. The A7 IV is out, so Sony's focus is going to be on the A7 IV. The A7 II was recently withdrawn, so the A7 II was recently withdrawn, so the A7 III is not a priority body for Sony right now, and we may not see much more improvement coming for the A7 III. But for the Z6 II, that's not true. We all the breakthrough that I got, some of that, even if there's a diluted version of the breakthrough from the Z9, and if you can get that in the Z6 II, that's going to be of immense value. And it's got 4K 60. It's got dual card slots, fantastic otherwise performance, and I really don't see how you can compare the Z6 to the A7 III right now. Maybe the A7 IV is more like it, and we'll have to see after an upgrade in firmware for the Z6 II how the A7 IV and the Z6 II with the new juiced firmware, how they in future how they perform. Now the interesting thing is happening with the Z7 and the Z7 II. See, these 45.7 megapixel cameras are relevant for portrait shooters and studio shooters and for landscape photographers, right? Not so much for fast shooters. And it's more geared to photography, high resolution pictures, and not so much for video. but even then the Z7 II can do really good video, 4K 60 full frame almost, right? So but if you look at the Z7 right now, it sounds like an amazing deal. It's now right now great for portraiture because the focusing is just so much better. It gets almost 100% in focus. So why would you think of the Z7 II? Well, for the same reasons, because it's got dual card slots and because its low light focusing capability is better for the Z7 II, the second gen. It can shoot down to down at -5 EV as claimed by Nikon. And of course, the first generation Nikon Z cameras, I felt that the low light focusing ability, while the files are fantastic, low light files, the focusing ability was not great. And my D750, like I keep saying, was better. But I think that's not true for the Z7 II. It has significantly and visibly improved its low light focusing capability. So that's a reason for the upgrade. And of course, the fact that you're going to get a lot more upgrades coming Z7 II's way. So these are fantastic cameras. You can't go wrong with the Z7 right now. And the best part is that you can pick up a Z7 and a Z6 and probably also a Z5 from the used market, and you can get, I mean, you'd probably get a Z7 for about $1,800 used, maybe for 6 months, right? So suddenly it's so much value, and if you get one, you should definitely go for one. Save that money and invest that money, or spend that money on buying lenses. So that's about it, guys. If this was useful or entertaining, do like this video and do subscribe, because really help this channel. I'm trying to put in a lot of effort in this channel and trying to build this corner on the internet where we can discuss Nikon thoroughly, and you can understand and enjoy using these systems, these cameras and these lenses. And if this is of any value to you, do help me out with a little bit of your support, and it takes nothing but a button click from your end, no money, right? So that's about it. Like I said, if you enjoy, please subscribe, and I'll see you very soon with another one.